Hi. I unlocked the front door just after midnight. The house was still. Too still. 4 days away, work trip, back-to-back meetings, nights spent in sterile hotels with the TV on low just for company. I hadn't texted Emily much while I was gone. We'd both been busy, or so I thought. I set my suitcase by the stairs, loosened my collar, and headed toward the kitchen. I wanted water, maybe a bite to eat before falling into bed. That's when I saw it, her laptop open on the counter. Screen on. Charger plugged in. Absent-minded for Emily. She usually closed everything before turning in. I didn't think much of it, until the notification popped up. Without 37 new messages. I blinked at it. Without what? Without who? Another ping. So happy for you. You're so brave. I reached for the glass in the cabinet but didn't pour. My hand hovered, breath caught. The message hovered on the screen like bait. It wasn't suspicion, not yet. Just an odd prickling of instinct. I stepped closer. The chat window was wide open, thread fully visible. Names in the sidebar, Jamie, Kate, and my gut twisted, Rachel, my sister. I scrolled slowly. At the top of the thread, a photo. Blurry, poorly lit, but unmistakable. A thin strip with 2 pink lines. The caption beneath it, Emily. Reactions, hearts, stars, clapping emojis. Dozens of them. I froze. Pregnant. The word landed hard, heavy, unreal. My first thought wasn't even betrayal, it was disbelief. How? When? We hadn't been close in that way for months. She'd said she was tired, stressed, not feeling like myself. I'd understood. I'd given her space, reassured her, told myself every couple went through phases. Now I understood. It hadn't been a phase. It had been avoidance. Deliberate. My throat tightened. I scrolled further. The thread scrolled fast. Congratulations, cheers, teasing about names. Then Rachel's message, standing out cold and sharp in the flow. You've got this. We're all behind you. Behind her. Against me. The floor seemed to shift beneath my feet. I gripped the edge of the counter, breath shallow. I could almost hear Emily upstairs, asleep behind the bedroom door, unaware of me standing here, reading what I was never meant to see. Another message from Rachel. Don't let guilt eat you up. You've made the right choice. Right choice. I felt something inside me fracture. Not anger, clarity. Cold, creeping clarity. They weren't just celebrating. They were preparing. Planning a life where I was an afterthought, if even that. And Rachel, my sister, had known, had helped. I closed my eyes, fighting back a wave of sickness. My thoughts spun. Was any of it real? The late-night talks we'd had about starting a family. Her smile the last time we'd walked by a baby store window. The way she'd squeezed my hand and said, someday. Had it all been staged? Or had she already drifted away by then? I looked back at the screen. More messages stacked beneath. A line from Kate. You're doing what's best for everyone. Another from Jamie. Soon you'll be free. Free. That word hung in the air like a verdict. Free from me. From the life we'd built. I exhaled slowly. My pulse was still hammering, but my hands didn't shake. Not yet. Part of me wanted to march upstairs, confront her, force the truth into the open. But a colder instinct, the part of me that hadn't survived this long by being reckless, said, not now. Not without more. I moved the cursor, closed the chat window, left no trace. Stood for a long moment in the dim kitchen, listening to the silence. Had she sensed I was drifting too? Had that been why her smile had felt thinner, her laughter more distant these past weeks? I replayed small moments in my mind now, scenes that suddenly looked different through this new, brutal lens. Her brushing off my invitation to dinner last Saturday. Coming home late from a work event 2 weeks ago, flushed, avoiding my eyes. A new bottle of vitamins on the bathroom shelf that I hadn't questioned. I should have questioned everything. But I hadn't. I'd trusted her. Blindly. A dull ache settled behind my ribs. I turned off the kitchen light. The darkness felt suffocating now. I took one step toward the stairs. Ping. Another message lit the screen. She's in the ER. My breath caught. I didn't move toward the laptop this time. I stood in the dark, heart racing, mind turning over. The shock was fading, replaced by something sharper. Not rage. Not grief. Resolve. I barely slept. I'd lain in bed for hours, staring at the ceiling, waiting for any sound from Emily's side of the house. I didn't go upstairs. I didn't check the ER message. If she was truly there, I'd hear about it soon enough. If it was a lie, another layer, I wasn't going to react on cue. By morning, I had already made a decision. No accusations, no outbursts. Observation first. A reckless move now would only erase any leverage I had. I went about my morning as usual, made coffee, showered, packed my laptop bag, all on autopilot. The house stayed silent. Emily hadn't come home during the night. When I finally heard the front door open near noon, I kept my posture casual in the kitchen. She stepped in slowly, pale, sunglasses on, a small hospital bracelet loose around her wrist. "Rough night," she said, voice thin. "Low sugar levels. Got a little dizzy. They wanted to monitor me." She didn't meet my eyes. I nodded, calm. "Glad you're okay." That was it. She moved to the fridge, pulled out juice, her motions careful, fragile. A performance, maybe? But I didn't press. Instead, I replayed a memory from a few weeks ago, now stark in contrast. A Saturday morning, the two of us in the kitchen, sunlight streaming through the window. Emily teasing me about how certain smells had started bothering her. "Your eggs smell weird today," she'd laughed, scrunching her nose. We joked about it, light-hearted, innocent. Now it felt rehearsed, staged. She'd been laying the groundwork even then. I left for the office that afternoon, though little work got done. Instead, I began quietly charting what I knew. A timeline. A mental map. Last time we'd been together in that way, February. She'd started avoiding closeness in March. By April, her excuses had hardened. Work deadlines, fatigue. Meanwhile, late-night outings had increased. Dinners with co-workers. Weekend brunches that ran long. I wrote it all down. No guesswork. Facts only. When I got home that evening, I checked our shared digital calendar. Something we'd both used for years. Nothing unusual. No appointments stood out. But then, scrolling through my social feeds, a tagged post caught my eye. Jamie had posted a photo from 3 weekends ago. Emily in the background, laughing with a cocktail in hand. They were clearly at a wine bar downtown. That same night, Emily had told me she was homesick. I remembered clearly. She'd texted me apologetically when I offered to bring her soup. "Too wiped out to eat. Going to bed early," she'd said. I stared at the photo. Dated and geotagged. Undeniable. I screenshotted it, saved it to a secure folder. That was when my approach shifted. This wasn't a single lapse. It was a sustained lie. From that night on, I stopped trying to interpret her words. I watched her actions. When she was home, I kept conversation normal. Pleasant. No cold shoulder, no visible suspicion. But every word, every movement, I logged mentally. At dinner, she chatted about her friend Kate's promotion. I smiled, nodded, poured her water. Listened. Inside, another voice was speaking louder. How long have they all known? What else is buried? By the end of that week, I had a list. Last physical connection, February. Increased absences, March, April. Contradicted alibi, wine bar photo. Without, group thread celebrating pregnancy. Rachel's clear involvement. I wasn't ready to confront. Not yet. But I wasn't blind anymore. The mask was cracking. By the start of the next week, the house felt like a stage. Emily kept her routine sharp. Smiles, coffee brewing, occasional kisses on the cheek, small talk about her project deadlines. If I hadn't seen the thread, hadn't captured that photo, I might have convinced myself things were fine. But every word out of her mouth sounded practiced now. I kept my mask in place too. If she was building a lie, I'd let her finish it, before I dismantled it on my terms. That Monday, I reached out to someone I trusted, a mutual friend, Adam. We'd known each other since college. He'd always seemed neutral in our circle, not caught up in Emily's inner group. I sent a casual message. "Hey, when you have a minute, need to run something by you." He replied almost immediately, agreed to grab a quick coffee. When we met, Adam was off, fidgety. His usual easy humor replaced by guarded small talk. I didn't push at first. We talked about work, the usual topics. Then I shifted. "Hey, random question," I said. "Emily mentioned being out with friends a lot lately. You hear anything about that?" He stiffened. Looked down at his cup. After a beat, he said flatly, "Not really. You know how the girls are. They've got their circles." I watched him carefully. "Just curious. Things have felt different at home." Adam forced a thin smile, checked his watch. "I should run. Deadlines." It wasn't what he said. It was how fast he wanted out of the conversation. I didn't stop him. I left the coffee shop with one more confirmation: people knew. And at least some of them were choosing silence. That night, Emily seemed especially bright at dinner. She'd made her signature pasta, chatted about an upcoming client pitch. Her voice bubbled over with details. Too much. Too forced. Later, as I worked in my office, I heard her voice drift from the hallway. Low. Urgent. On the phone. I stood, carefully cracked the door. Her voice carried. I don't know how long we can keep it from him. A pause. I'm trying. I swear. Another pause. A sharp exhale. I'm doing everything I can. The floor felt cold beneath my feet. I eased the doors shut and sat back at my desk. Not suspicion anymore. Confirmation. The next morning, while Emily was out running errands, I started combing through recent bank statements. Nothing obvious in shared accounts, but her personal credit card told another story. Weeks ago, an online order for prenatal vitamins. A few days after that, charges from a clinic downtown. The listing was vague, but I recognized the address. It was an OB office. Then, a small recurring fee, a rental storage unit. Storage? For what? Each line item chipped away at the person I thought I knew. It wasn't just betrayal. It was planning. She wasn't caught in a single bad decision. She was constructing an entire future, without me. I sat there for a long time after that. The house was quiet again. A familiar ache pressed in my chest. But this time, it didn't paralyze me. It sharpened me. If she was hiding that much, I had to assume there was more. I wasn't going to confront yet, not without knowing exactly how deep the route went. I started building a second list, a more dangerous one, and I promised myself, the next truth I uncovered would change everything. By the time the next weekend came, the house felt like glass. One wrong move, and the whole thing would shatter. Emily was keeping busy, busier than usual. Errands, meetings, phone calls, always somewhere, always an excuse. I let her move freely, watched, measured. That Saturday, she said she needed to run to the pharmacy and then meet her sister for lunch. Her voice was bright, casual. Her hand brushed my shoulder as she grabbed her keys. I'll be back in a few hours, she said. I nodded, smiled, watched her drive off. When she left, I opened my laptop. Search local storage facilities. Only one matched the address on her credit card. I noted the location, downtown, a small rental unit. Another loose thread. I added it to the list. Then I checked the calendar. Nothing on today. Nothing scheduled. I leaned back, let my mind churn. Part of me still wanted to believe there was a way to salvage something, anything. But with each piece I uncovered, that hope faded. And that's when it happened. Later that afternoon, as I stepped out to grab the mail, I heard voices, heated, just beyond the driveway. I paused behind the hedge. Emily's car was parked there, trunk still open. She and her sister, Rachel, were standing by it. Rachel's voice was sharp. You have to tell him. He'll find out it's not his. The words hit like a hammer. Emily's reply came fast, desperate. I know. I just need more time. He'll be devastated. I can't. Rachel cut her off. This isn't sustainable. You think you can hide this forever? Emily's voice cracked. I'm trying. Please. I stood frozen. The mail forgotten in my hand. Not his. The phrase echoed, jagged and cruel. Not only had she lied about everything, she knew. They all knew. And they were preparing to let me believe a life that wasn't mine. I backed away before they could see me. Moved inside, closed the door quietly. My hands shook for the first time since this began. Upstairs, I sat on the edge of the bed. The room blurred. I thought of our wedding day, Emily's eyes shining as we read our vows. I thought of every late-night conversation we'd had about the future, about raising a family together, the names we'd picked, the house we'd chosen. Now it all rang hollow. Every memory tasted like ash. I drove for hours that evening. No destination. Just away. Windows down, the wind roaring past. The car felt like a coffin. Every thought looped back to the same brutal point. There was no coming back from this. Not his. Not mine. At a red light, I pulled out my phone. Search local labs. Private paternity services. Found one with next-day consultations. Booked it on the spot. I didn't care what it cost. I didn't care how long it took. I needed the truth, in writing. Ironclad. And once I had it, there would be no more pretending. I drove home late, the house dark. Emily was already asleep, Or pretending to be. I stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching the rise and fall of her breath. Then I turned away. Some truths you couldn't unhear. Some lines, once crossed, never faded. And in that moment I knew I'd already crossed mine. The next morning, the house smelled of coffee and fresh bread. Emily was already up, humming softly in the kitchen. For a brief moment, standing at the top of the stairs, the scene almost looked normal. Domestic. Safe. But it wasn't. I knew it wasn't. And I knew now what I was playing for. Time. I moved carefully through the morning routine. Shaved. Dressed. Entered the kitchen with a practiced smile. Emily glanced up. Her face was pale, but her smile was soft. Rough night? She asked. I nodded. Didn't sleep well. She reached for the coffee pot. I was worried. We've both been so stressed lately. Her voice was light. Too light. She poured me a cup, placed it gently on the table. Then, I'm making your favorite tonight. Figured we could use a nice dinner. A pause. I'm glad you're home, she added. Her eyes lingered a beat too long, studying me, testing for cracks. I gave her nothing, just a small nod. Looking forward to it, I said. Inside, my thoughts were coiled tight. Later that afternoon, I checked my email. The lab had sent a confirmation. Paternity consultation booked for Wednesday. Private. Discreet. The appointment wasn't even the point anymore. I already knew. But I wanted the paper. The weapon. The undeniable line I would draw when the time came. By evening, the performance was back in full swing. Emily had set the table carefully, lit a candle. The kitchen smelled of rosemary and garlic. She greeted me with a soft kiss on the cheek. How was your day? Quiet, I said. She served dinner, her tone warm, her laughter a little forced. I matched it perfectly. If this was the show she wanted to put on, I'd give her an audience, for now. But beneath the surface, my eyes stayed sharp, watching, noting. Halfway through the meal, I noticed her phone buzzing on the counter. A name flashed on the screen, Marcus D. Not a name I recognized. She moved quickly to silence it. Too quickly. Then smiled. Work thing. They're all scrambling. I just nodded. Later, when she stepped out to take a call, tense voice, muffled behind the door, I made a quiet decision. After she'd gone to bed, I grabbed the keys and slipped out to the garage. The shared car was there. Same as always. I moved carefully, glove box first. Nothing unusual. Insurance papers, sunglasses. But tucked between the manuals, folded neatly, was a card. I pulled it out, unfolded it slowly. Can't wait for our life to start. You're going to be an amazing mom. Signed with initials, MD. Marcus D. I stood there for a long time, card in hand, the garage cold around me. Another crack. Another truth. She wasn't just lying about the past. She was building a new future, already entwined with someone else. I placed the card back exactly as I found it. Quiet. Clean. Then I returned to the house. Walked upstairs. Slid into bed beside her. Emily shifted slightly in her sleep. Or pretended to. Her breathing was just a shade too steady. I stared at the ceiling for hours. Not mine. Not hers anymore either. But soon, she would know exactly how much I knew. And when I confronted her, it would be on my terms. I didn't rush the confrontation. Not after everything I'd learned. I gave it 2 full days. 2 days of controlled, precise normalcy. Smiling at Emily over breakfast. Making conversation at dinner. Moving through the house like any other husband. The same routines on the surface. Inside, something colder had taken root. The last traces of doubt were gone. The lab results sat sealed on my desk. I hadn't opened them. I didn't need to. I knew what they would say. But they were my line in the sand. When the moment came, there would be no room for argument, no space for spinning. Just the undeniable truth. That Thursday, I watched Emily more closely than ever. She was trying harder, small gestures, more affection. Brushing her fingers across my arm when she passed. Leaving handwritten notes on the fridge. Have a great day. Love you. Each one landed like a blade. Not because of the lie itself, because of the choice. Every smile, every touch, was another conscious decision to maintain the mask. That evening, I set the stage. I cooked dinner simple, deliberate. No music, no candles. Just 2 plates and 1 glass of wine. Hers. The house was silent when Emily walked in from the bedroom, dressed down, hair loosely tied back. She paused at the sight of the table. Wow, she said, voice light. What's the occasion? I offered a small smile. Thought we could use a quiet night. Just us. She moved to sit, her smile flickering uncertainly. That sounds nice. We ate in relative silence at first. I let her fill the gaps. Stories about Kate's promotion, a funny moment with a client. I nodded, responded where needed, watched her carefully. When the plates were nearly cleared, I pushed mine slightly aside. There's something we should talk about, I said, voice calm even. Emily blinked. Her fork hovered in midair. Okay, she said, wary. I reached beside me and placed the first item on the table. A printed screenshot of the without chat thread. The image of the test. The flood of congratulatory messages. Her eyes locked onto it. The color drained slightly from her face. Before she could speak, I placed the next item, the receipt for the prenatal purchase, with the date highlighted. Her lips parted. Wait, I can explain. I continued. No reaction. No change in tone. The third item, the photo from the wine bar. Date and location clearly marked. Emily's breath hitched. Her posture stiffened. Finally, I placed the folded card from the glove box, opened just enough for the signature to show. For a long moment, neither of us moved. When she finally spoke, her voice was thin, shaking. It's not what you think. I met her gaze. Steady. Cold. Controlled. It's worse, I said. Quiet. Unflinching. Emily's mask cracked. Her hands trembled as she reached toward the card, then pulled back. Her voice broke. Please, I didn't mean for this to happen. I cut her off, not with volume, but with precision. Stop, she froze. I reached for the final item, the sealed envelope, placed it gently in the center of the table. The DNA test is done, I said evenly. I haven't opened it. I don't need to. But when I do, there will be no more lies. Tears streamed down her cheeks now. Her hands gripped the edge of the table as if anchoring herself. Please, she whispered. I was going to tell you. I was just scared. I didn't move, didn't blink. You weren't scared, I said softly. You were choosing. Every day. Her shoulders crumpled. A sob escaped her throat. You can tell whatever story you want to them, I continued. But this. I gestured to the table, to the evidence laid bare. This is over. I stood. Emily looked up, eyes red, breath ragged. Please, can we talk? No. My voice stayed level. The coldest it had ever been. I won't fight for something that was never mine. I turned, left her at the table. Behind me, I heard her voice break fully, a choked sob, followed by silence. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I crossed the threshold of the room, and with it, the last boundary I'd been holding. There was no going back now. I didn't stay in the house that night. After the confrontation, I packed a bag, grabbed the sealed envelope, and left, quietly, without ceremony. Emily didn't follow. Maybe she couldn't. I checked into a small business hotel across town. Sterile. Plain. Exactly what I needed. The next morning, I was at my lawyer's office before they opened. I didn't wait for more evidence. I had enough. I filed first. Petition for divorce. Motion for financial protections. Clear, strategic. My lawyer moved fast. Thankfully, I'd chosen well. By noon, the paperwork was in motion. That afternoon, I opened the sealed DNA results. Alone, in the hotel room. No surprise. Just confirmation. Probability of paternity, 0%. I filed it with the case. Ironclad. Meanwhile, Emily tried to reach out. Texts first, then calls. I didn't answer. Later that week, her tone shifted. She hired her own attorney. The strategy became clear. Paint me as controlling. Dangerous. A last-ditch attempt to salvage her reputation. But lies don't hold up under evidence. The chat thread. The receipts. The lab report. My legal team buried her claims before they gained traction. And then came the social fallout. Word spread fast in our circle. Faster than I expected. Rachel showed up at my hotel 3 days after the filing. Pale. Eyes rimmed with guilt. I didn't know how to tell you, she said, voice shaking. She promised she would handle it. I stared at her. Part of me wanted to scream, to demand answers, but I didn't. I simply said, you knew, and you stayed silent. She broke down then. Apologies. Tears. But some betrayals run too deep. I cut ties. Blunt. Final. Rachel cried. I walked away. Other friendships fractured too. Some people sided with Emily. Some distanced themselves from both of us, afraid of the wreckage. I let them go. But in the silence, clarity began to form. I threw myself into work. Long hours, quiet focus. Months passed. The divorce finalized faster than expected. My financial protections held. Emily kept the house. I didn't fight her for it. It wasn't home anymore. Her reputation took hits. Not publicly scandalous, but enough, friends whispered. Connections frayed. I watched it all from a distance, not with triumph, not with revenge. Just resolve. One crisp afternoon, I found myself walking past a park we used to visit, a place we once talked about taking our future family. The path wound past the playground. I stopped. For a moment, the weight of it all settled sharp in my chest. Not anger, not grief, just understanding and resolve. As I stood there, my phone buzzed. A message from Emily. Can we talk? Thank you for watching. Bye.